Hello and welcome to this week's episode of That Tech Show, the show that reveals the magicians behind the magic that is everyday technology. You know it by now. On this week's episode, we have Dean Kuchel, and we talk all about being a digital nomad, working remotely, and how companies can embrace remote workers better. We also talk about what exciting tools and technology are just around the corner, hoping to address the cultural problems with this new remote-first revolution brought along by the pandemic. It's a really insightful conversation. If you're interested in becoming a digital nomad, then Dean is always up for a chat. And so without further ado, here is Dean Kuchel.
Hey guys, Dean Kuchel, or where is Dean on social media. I stand for remote work and digital nomad lifestyle. I've been traveling the world for 8 years now, visited more than 100 countries in the process and met awesome people along the way. I'm the founder of Digital Nomad Israel, one of the largest communities in the world for digital nomads. And I'm working now on the Digital Nomad World, a new platform and social network for digital nomads around the world. So join me there.
Nice. I'm just typing those frantically down. Just what was that last one you said?
Digital Nomad World.
Digital Nomad World. Okay, I'll write that down so we can chat about that. Just quickly, what's your name?
What's my name?
We met and you introduced yourself as Dean. And
Yes.
I see Nimrod everywhere, which is an amazing name.
My full name is Nimrod Dean Kuchel. I was born Nimrod Kuchel. And Nimrod is an Hebrew name. Where I'm from Israel. It's my native language. And then in the US, Nimrod is moron or stupid quite often. So it didn't work well when I moved to New York and I had to adopt something a little bit more easier. Then I adopted Dean, and I've been going with Dean for 16, 17 years now. It's just that I dedicate my life to people, to meet people as I travel and my work. And then every time I introduce myself as Nimrod, the first 10, 15 minutes of conversation will be around my name. So I'm just like, all right, let's find a different pitch.
There we go. And so for those new or interested or whatever into the world of digital nomad, in your own words, what is a digital nomad?
A digital nomad is a person who can conduct and do the work from anywhere in the world, regardless of the location, and using digital means. This is the one term that I'm going with. And for me, a person, like you, Chris, you choose to work from home today. You might choose to work from a coffee shop or from a co-work space the next day. That's a digital nomad. A lot of people, and me too, kind of starting to walk away from this definition, because a digital nomad is not really what defines the person or the people that you meet along the way. We are partners and fathers. We might be coders or designers. We might be spiritual people. And digital nomad is really more of a kind of a lifestyle for me, right? It doesn't define much more than that. But for me, like the reason I live as a digital nomad, and I use it to have freedom to move, freedom to be in the perfect weather, the right time zone, the right people around me. I want to see different cultures and meet different friends. So I define myself as a digital nomad just for the sense of freedom that it created for me. This lifestyle, the way I work, allowed me also to achieve financial freedom in an early age, explore the world, of course, and see so much before the age of 40. I'm 39 now.
That's really interesting, because do you think people are defining personalities because they're a digital nomad then? And do you think that's a bad thing? Like, why? Because, we'll get into our mutual kind of meeting and all the rest of it. But like, there is somewhat of a stigmatism within the digital nomad community around the term digital nomad. But from your perspective, like, are people like preempting or being prejudiced around the term digital nomad?
You make some assumption on a person if you say, "Oh, is a digital nomad," or "Are you a digital nomad?" And it brings different ideas. Your parents might think that you're just a gypsy. They don't know what you do, maybe, or like what's going on with your life. Some can call you out on it's not being professional because you travel the world, and So no, I haven't met a company who wants to hire a digital nomad. I know companies want to hire remote employees and remote professionals. No one wants to hire a digital nomad. Now, the reason I'm saying it is because I recently had conversation with some governments and companies that are trying to target digital nomads, right, as their crowd and the market segment. Countries calling nomads to come and stay in their borders for long term, spend their money, merge with the local community. And the conversation with me is digital nomads, and how do we attract digital nomads? Well, digital nomad is not one animal, right? If we look at Bali, Bali attracts a lot of spiritual people. It's an amazing space if you like to meditate or try breath work and other spiritual practices, or if you like to surf. And then if you like more the city life, you might end up going to Medellin or I don't know, Canary Islands, for example, right?
Mm.
Bangkok may be a better example. So when a business wants to attract, I'm talking to digital nomads. I have a community for nomads. What is a nomad? Like it cannot be, it's not one persona. This is why I'm kind of trying to give a very fluffy definition to the term.
Because I will say, being objective, I will say, being in Bali and the types of people that it does attract tend to be very quite young, oftentimes quite young, very early on in their career. So, not having met someone unless you on a video call or whatever, so there's a lot of youth in the digital nomad community. There's a lot of I don't want to say selfishness because that sounds negative, but there's an element of like I'm prioritizing a lot of my personal, which is totally correct, by the way. I think we should have a better work-life balance and all the rest of it. But that's from my direct experience. I wouldn't know how businesses and whatever, how they would sort of necessarily know that. But there is a spectrum. I've met people like yourself who are very focused on their business and what they do. And I've met the other end of the spectrum, which is some people bumming around trying to build an app whilst chilling on a beach, going through that. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to bring Chris into the picture here, because had you heard of a digital nomad or anything around digital nomad before, Chris?
Well, I not in quite so much the roaming sense that you guys are more experienced with. I've worked in places where people are would flip between two different locations. In fact, actually, Sam, when we worked at TalkTalk, there was one guy who spent, I think, 3 months in Brazil and then 3 months in the UK, and he would rotate.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And there's a couple of people I'm working with at the moment who, again, have moved out to different countries. But and that's quite progressive for those organizations, that they've actually been able to adopt people who are quite comfortable being in different locations, and they solve all of they try their best to solve all of the problems around having people who are actually now they're on a different time zone. I was wondering if you had any advice, Dean, on like for organizations, like how does a company become good at adopting digital nomads or having people that are in different time zones?
That's a great question, and so many companies are now dealing with this lifestyle that people adopt as a result of COVID, and they kind of pushed into taking on remote work. When it comes to time zone, to be honest, I look at remote work still as a privilege for the employee rather than a benefit that or a way of work that company live by, right? So if you want to be a remote professional, it's up to you to be the best team player. People think, oh, I work remote, so I'm not in a team setup, right? I don't need to be a good team player. No, you need to be a much better team player to compensate for the distance. Communication, you need to be a much better communicator because of the distance. And when it comes to discipline, if you choose to be in Bali and your company is West Coast, USA, you need to understand that Friday night is not going out to a bar. It's staying home and taking those calls with your clients, your customers, with your business. You can't grow your business if you don't put hours. Being a digital nomad doesn't exempt you from the hard work. So there is a common practice among companies that there is a 4 to 6 hours of overlap between different teams, right? If you a team of coders, it is expected that you will have 4 hours of overlap. And yeah, if it means that you cannot be in Tonga while your company is sitting in Austin, Texas, then don't be in Tonga. I don't think companies should work with anything and any, I want to be in Tonga and then Samoa. It's like, it might not work for the company, and that's fine. Now, of course, you need to adopt tools like, Slack, Zoom, MS Teams, that allow you for good asynchronic communication. And also, companies need to understand that's a good way to feel the employee. Is a good employee? Does he fit the culture? Is not. A lot of the digital nomads find out very quickly that this is not for them. Even if they slow meds and they choose to be 3 months in Brazil and 3 months in Bulgaria, they might find out that this is too much of a time shift or culture change for them, and they want to travel. A lot of the questions very often that people ask, how do you deal with all the temptation that you have around you when you go to a new place, but you need to sit down and work? So a remote worker and a digital nomad might not have common interest in life, but they do need to have, I think, common traits of discipline and responsibility. So I'm taking your question, and instead of putting it on the companies, I kind of want to move this responsibility to the employees and the freelancers and all. So you still need to be very disciplined. And from the companies, again, is to promote it. Before COVID, there were many research was done around the remote work because this was the most lucrative benefit employees asked for. But also it came with a price to the companies because they find out that attrition is very, very low. And nomads and remote workers tend to stay much longer with the company and be much more disciplined and just adhere to the company's vision long term. Because if you allow me, while I'm in my 30s, to live the dream life that I want, save more money, live where I want, travel the world, while I do my work and progress my career, why would I leave this company? Like, why would I ever quit this job? And then that's my long answer to your short question.
I'm just wondering how you get to a point there where a company can sort of adopt that approach, because there's quite a lot of pre-work essentially, or setup work that a company has to do. So I know, for example, with one of the clients I'm working with at the moment, they have someone out in Brazil, I believe. They have someone out in New Zealand, and because they don't actually have like an entity in that region, and the people have actually, I think they've actually maybe moved permanently now, but because of them being in different places, they have to think about how do they deal with tax from a company perspective. Do they now become a contractor that they've got to send the money to, rather than having an actual business entity in that region? I'm wondering because I think Sam and I have had conversations with a number of business leaders where actually they've found themselves to be much more productive because they've had people all over the globe. And I'm wondering, for a company that doesn't have that, and maybe has some employees who want to go out and move to different parts of the world, how do you help that company to start adopting those processes? Because there's quite a lot of setup work that they might need to do.
Before you answer, can I jump in with just a clarification? Because I don't know whether you meant this, Chris, entirely, but I think the difference, I think what you were speaking about was more remote workers, someone who is in a different part of the world, whereas a digital nomad, from my understanding and perspective, is someone who actively will keep traveling and move around and aren't necessarily based in one place. So does your question change at all based on that clarification, or do you think that the same question applies?
I don't know. I'll refer to Dean.
There you go.
I believe that a digital nomad is any person who can work remotely. And it doesn't matter if they choose to stay in one place. If they want to live in Reading, UK, never leave the house, they're still a digital nomad as long as this is their choice, right? If I tell you, no, Sam, you must travel, then I'm taking the first right of being a digital nomad, the freedom to choose where to be, right? So people choose to be digital nomad because they just want to live closer to their parents, for example. Doesn't mean they travel the world. And for me, this is a very important part of the definition. And when it comes to companies, I definitely want to see more and more companies adopt remote work and allow people to work from anywhere they want. Having the right environment and setup is so important for the employee. Me waking up in the place I want, it makes me super happy, super motivated. I wake up full of energy. Allow me to arrange my day better. I'm more productive in the evening. So I choose to be in Asia, where I can work out in the day, have my lunch, work with people, and then the evening is this is where I sit down and crunch the numbers in my work, right? So there's many good reasons for companies to adopt it. Now it doesn't need to be all or nothing, black or white, and immediate change. Okay, everyone go home. It has to be gradual change. Don't, if the company is US based or UK based, it's not like send everyone around the world. Like, hey, let's work. You want to move around Europe? Easy. I can still pay you. You can maintain your rights. You know, let's do a trial. Go do it for a month. Go do it for 2 months. See if it works for you. And the employees not often understand what it means to move. So allow them to do it. And I always remind the businesses I work with, I'm not going out of space. And even then, it will take me maybe a couple of days to return, right? So I'm in Israel now. My company is based, and the company I work with is based in the States. If they ever need me in the office, maximum 24 hours for me to be there. I mean, all I have is a single carry-on, and I go on the next flight, I'll be there. With time, they learn that location really doesn't matter. Like I had employees that told me, can you stay in the same time zone? Like if the work is in the States, stay in Mexico or Canada. And after a month, like we pick up the phone, it's like they understand. Like they don't ask me, are you in Mexico? Like it's like, you know what? It's really stupid. If you're not in the office, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you keep picking up the phone. So companies will learn slowly that it works, and we learn how to deal with the time differences. Again, it's important for companies to set up policy. Do your 4 hours of work with the same time with your team. They have open your camera when you have meetings. This is the best way to bridge on distance. Have conversation outside of your just business meeting. A lot of the innovation just happen in companies happens as a result of the water cooler chat, right? So have set up this water cooler chat for your employees. Use digital platform to allow just happy hours and off the record conversations. And then when it comes to the technicality of how to pay and how to employ, there are many solutions. So this is now pretty easy to do. One way, which I prefer, is to work as a freelancer, to invoice companies. But then we see so many companies now, like Let's Bill and Papaya Global, companies that allow you to employ people all around the world easily. They're on the payroll. They just set up the entities all over the world. So it makes it really a breeze to employ any person from anywhere. And then, Sam, you talked about, I think it was you, what productivity for companies and how it helps them. Of course, that if I'm coming from Israel, I need a Spanish speaker employee. If I lock myself to the talent pool here in Israel, what are the odds that I will find an Argentinian who speaks Argentinian Spanish to employ in my offices? So I have maybe one person like this, and who knows if he's free to work and he wants to work for my company or is the right fit. If I just change the location of this position from Tel Aviv to remote, think how many opportunities open up for my community now. And it also goes for availability. A company which has a small office in Tel Aviv, it can turn global in a month and have people available all over the world for customer service, for sales. And also, I think that we all need to be more multicultural today. No one sells for local markets anymore. There are all the reasons for companies to adopt remote work, but there are all the reasons also to worry about culture and keeping the talent with you.
And I was going to say, with all that, I wanted to give a shout out to my mate's company, Omnipresent, who do specialize. You mentioned a couple of Papaya and one other one around how they're making it easier to hire remote people, right? They handle all the localization and all the rest of it, and then it's not really up to the not up to the business, but it makes it easier for the business to adopt a hiring process. I think then it falls down to the teams and the managers to have that culture in place where they are having those water cooler moments. That's something I've tried to adopt with my current work. That, after every meeting, we just sort of expect to hang around for 15 minutes and just have a chat. And that's what I call the water cooler moment. And often the best ideas come out of that. So I think it's very easy for companies to adopt a remote working thing with these companies like Let's Deal, Paya, Global, and Omnipresent. It's then a sort of next step to keep that culture. Which I had a question around, like you staying social and active and things like that. Is it, your motto is just or just say yes?
Say yes and go explore. Yes.
Say yes and go explore. Yeah. Is that a motto that you feel like is essential for a digital nomad to actually excel in being a digital nomad, being someone who's remote?
Saying yes, I think, is the secret for enjoying life and try different things. I really think that by saying yes to everything and anything in life, I brought a lot of good opportunities and many good things. And you ask, do you want to be on this podcast? Yes. Do you want to be on TV? Yes. Do you want to give talks? Yes. Do you want to start a company and a social network for digital nomads? Yes and yes. And not with everything I carry on forever and ever. And sometimes things turn to be not as fun or what I expected, but I tried. Think of a person who sits at home and says no to everything. Now you basically just sit at home. So saying yes creates this progress. You cannot fail in life. You can only do and create and make progress. If there are 1,000 jobs in the world and you get 999 no's, it means that you know better what's right for you. So you cannot really fail. And this is why I say yes to everything. I can't think of my life in a different way. And this is also for companies. An employee asks you, can I work remote? Try it. What's the worst can be, right? Okay, it doesn't work after 2 weeks, $50 on some cheap airline, and he's back in the office. No one sell their house and all their belongings when they go work remote the first time. And this is the notion of saying yes. I don't think that all the good things happen to me in my life are the result of me saying yes. Nothing good ever happened to me as a result of me saying no. And that's put it in simple word why I keep saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to meeting people. So often when you travel, there's like a meetup, it's like 9 p.m. in some bar and you already had 3 nights out before. And you say, should I go to this meetup? Should I not? And every single time I return from these meetups, tired, I tell myself, I was so lucky to say yes and go. The people I met there, the connections, the vibe, I might be swamped and tired, but still, I come up with so many good memories and stories and inspiration. And how I met you in an event and a co-working space in Australia. So it's even the small things like, should I reach out to this guy and say hi, and so on. So I think you wrote me on Facebook or something like that. I'm not sure how we got connected.
So I remember this. It was a WeWork. It was through the WeWork. Like, I had a free kind of membership thing, and you put a post up on the kind of community thing, and I was like, this guy, like the way you phrased the message was just so like approachable, and like the way you communicated, just wanting to meet. And I was like, this guy seems cool. So I just reached out and said, hey, do you want to go for some food? And I remember us going into that. You took me to a little, I've forgotten what it was, like maybe a burrito place or something. And we just had some dinner. We chatted for a while, and then kind of the rest is kind of history. And I think we've bumped into each other in Bali. We've bumped into each other in London. We've bumped into each other in Dubai. And
that's right.
Yeah, remember that? We went for some Lebanese food. That was
yes, it was nice, a real nice place. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So we've just sort of, I mean, probably more you than me, but we've sort of bumped into each other over and over again. And I just think you're very good. Just it feels like there's a real connection with you, whenever we meet, sort of thing. It's like I'm your best friend in the world, and we've known each other for ages, and that's a real kind of special connection. So I absolutely, your enthusiasm to meet people and say yes is palpable, like all the time. So yeah, that's how we met. I just remember thinking, this guy knows how to communicate. You're very, very good communicator. So yeah, and that was back in Sydney, and then
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't remember all that, but thank you very much. And
it means a lot to me, dude. It means a lot to me. Okay.
I kind of feel ashamed that I took you to a burrito place on, on our first date, but
It might have been burrito. I can't remember.
I'm proud of the many things that I made happen for myself, my career, the community, and the network that I've built for myself. But then I am the result of the people that I've met along the way. Like everything I know, I'm not better than any person. My score is 100, just like any other person on this planet. And I learn from everyone I meet. And yes, some people come to my life, and I might never see them again, but it was an enjoyable encounter. And I hear a different story, and some stay with you for years, and you never know. One of the reasons that I'm trying to be kind and nice to every person that I meet is that I learned the hard way that you never know who you're gonna meet again and where in the world. It's like I had a terrible date in London, which was like ended up in like deleting the numbers, and then you end up sitting together in Medellin, Colombia, in a co-working space a year later. So
Yeah.
it's like you never know where you meet people. I met people in Russia, and 6 months later we woke up next to each other in a hostel in Canada. So it's a small planet. Everyone know everyone now. The world is connected. So this is why I'm trying to be kind and nice and meet people and help everyone I can and inspire people to live their best life.
You're forever leaving breadcrumbs is kind of the way I look at it. Like you just, you're always traceable. That sounds like weird and perverted, but like, just exactly what you're saying. You never know how things are going to kind of swing around. But so, this is obviously a tech show, and we're obviously more inclined to be interested in more tech stuff. But what are there any because tech jobs, right, for a digital nomad, tech jobs seem to be the most obvious choice because you work from your laptop. Are there any non-tech jobs that actually would you consider a digital nomad? I'm trying to think. Like, you need to kind of be remote, right?
You need to be remote, and you need to be able to do your work from the computer. But I recently came back from Bulgaria, from Bansko. There was the Bansko Nomad Festival, 350 people from all over the world. And for me, that was the stamp that like you no longer need to be a coder or a web designer or an influencer to be a digital nomad. I met people from all different walks of life, doing all different professions. People in astrology. All right, how do you take astrology, 1,000 years old profession, and become a digital nomad with it? Well, you do. You just offer your services online. There is a guy who's a doctor, and he started to put videos on YouTube of his residency. And last year he made $1.3 million on YouTube.
Jesus.
Just sharing his life as a doctor in residency, right, in the States. And like, you can become a car mechanic and say, okay, I'm going to help people via webcam. You're stuck on the middle of the road, just do a live Zoom call with me. I'll try to help you, show me what it looks like, and I might try to fix it or just forward you to the right person who can help you in your space. You see people taking a very traditional jobs and digitize them.
Mm-hmm.
You can make gloves at home and sell them online, but you're still a glove maker, and this is what you like to do. You can be a carpenter and start a YouTube channel or a blog about it, and you can start to take your professional hobbies into the digital space. So yes, a lot of people are starting to, yes, you cannot be a carpenter while being a digital nomad, but you can do different things in this space and earn good living and income that actually allow you to focus on being a carpenter and enjoy what you really want to do. Right. So I don't want to say for anyone and everything, but if we think about most jobs today, 70% of them, 70% of the jobs, 70% of the work is done on a computer.
I suppose even if you're not a digital nomad, every like car manufacturing, like you say, carpenter, they're all probably using computers anyway, or some sort of automation or robotics or things like that. So it's, I guess it's whether you're a digital nomad or not. I guess this idea of physical work is dying a death, really, because even if you feel like you don't use tech, you probably are. There's probably a system set up, that enables you to do what you do that's technology based. So
I believe that luck is the result of hard work. It's one of my favorite saying that when you think about it, first, we are very lucky. If you have a phone, if you listen to this podcast, it means you're connected to the internet. You probably have hot shower and roof above your head. You are at the very top of human beings on at least quality of life on this planet, and we don't appreciate it. And then when it comes to luck is the result of hard work, we don't work very hard nowadays. Most of us just type on some plastic buttons and get paid in the end of the month. We work long hours, we put some effort, but we're not construction builders and we don't work the land that much anymore. So it's really nice to feel spoiled and complain. Everybody loves to complain no matter where they're from in the world. And that's fine. I complain too sometimes. But yeah, a lot of jobs are being automated or we see them just disappear and machines taking over. But it opens a lot of opportunities as well. If you want to have a secure job for the rest of your life, then go be a barber. I don't see any technology taking over this anytime soon. But with the rise of the machine also comes a lot of people who need to maintain the machine and write the code and program it and maintain it. So we'll still see mechanics, but they will fix and maintain the machines that build the machines rather than just the product. It's interesting. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting shift in our life, thanks to technology and machines and automation. And then when we'll have autonomous cars in 25 years, that will be the second big wave of this century, I think.
I watched a video last week, and it was. I mean, I think this is not tremendously new news, but it was a doctor actually performing surgery on someone, remotely, completely remotely, and they've got their kind of gear this side and their actions this side of the world that are affecting something over the other side of the world. It'll be really interesting when that becomes commonplace and like robots that do that are cheaper and more efficient, because then being a digital nomad, you could become a hairdresser as a digital nomad because you could do that on the other side of the world.
Latency is a bit of a problem there, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, hopefully the infrastructure is there to compensate for that, but that doctor had to perform a surgery, so yeah, latency would have to be overcome pretty significantly for that to work.
As big of a fan of remote work and remote travel and digital nomad lifestyle, I also a big fan of the human touch. And I don't think any technology, and I hope that no technology can compensate for the real life meetup, right? Sitting in front of a person, it's a sense and a feeling that I don't think technology can replace. It's for the same reason that you've seen Machu Picchu in million photos on the internet, but it feels different. You still travel, you take the 12 hours flight to Peru, the 3 hours flight to Cusco, and then you hike for another 3 days to see it in your own eyes. And then it's a wow effect. Why is it? There is a sensation when we see something in real life in front of us. So I don't think any technology can replace this. And the biggest trend of 2022 should be work from the office. That would be the new trend. People will want to go to the office, because what we see now during COVID, this is a terrible way to practice remote work. Staying at home, lockdown, forced to work from home, and if you have family and your kids at home, it doesn't make it comfortable, and your partner might work from home as well. So this is not what people in my space had in mind when we thought about remote work. I don't think everybody to work remote as well, right? So I'm waiting for COVID to kind of die down.
Yeah.
Finger crossed. And then to see what's the real new normal of hybrid work and how many people will choose to work remote. When I started to work remote, I was so afraid that all my colleagues would say, wow, I want to live like this. I want to travel the world. And I kind of muted myself on Instagram a little bit. I blocked some of my colleagues on Instagram, because I was afraid if they will go to HR and ask to work remote, HR will say, instead of them going remote, they will call Dean and say, hey, Dean, you need to come back to the office, because people are asking questions. And the opposite happened. Like, people said, yeah, I mean, it's really cool what Dean is doing and I enjoy following him, but I don't want to do it for myself. I don't want to travel every day, different place. I want to be close to my family. I want to be in the office. I enjoy the vibe and the culture. So I'm a big fan again of remote work. This is what I stand for. But then at the same time, I understand why people want to be in the office. I go to co-working spaces because I want to be surrounded by people.
The whole COVID thing and remote working as it stands right now is very novelty. I think it's people aren't, people are trying to figure it out. People are enjoying it. Let them enjoy it. Let them be on a Zoom call with no underwear on or whatever it is. Let them enjoy that for a moment. That's not what I do. I don't do that. What?
Hey, hang on a minute. We've been on a call before, and you've had to turn your camera off so you could stand up and adjust the window.
You got me. But I too am eager to see where this goes and how it settles, how the dust settles. I would hope, going back to your point around human touch and all the rest of it, I would hope that by enabling, having technology enable a lot of this remote work, and that it frees up a lot of brain capacity to want to go and see people more. I've got more time, I've got more energy, and then you crave that human connection. I would hope it goes that direction. I hope it's not the other direction of people just becoming lazy and slobs. I mean, there will be people who want to be lazy and slobs, and that's not a bad thing. That's just they're just that's just what they want to do and chill out and stuff. But I hope it enables people to be more energetic, more crave life a lot more because of the simplicity around work.
But it's not just that though either, is it? Because I was watching a movie with the wife at the weekend, and there were people walking up to one another, greeting each other and shaking each other's hands, and we're going, "Oh, that's weird. Remember when we used to shake hands?" This has changed the world forever.
Yeah. I mean, who knows where it goes? I think there's dust to settle, as I say, and hopefully it doesn't go that route. That would, it is quite weird, I'm trying to bring back the Roman handshake. That to me is that.
Well, hang on, that's a bit over the top, isn't it?
It's a bit too much connection there, isn't it? Too much physical connection.
I do like the elbow bump. I'm a big fan of the elbow bump, and the fist bump.
Yeah. So, what made you become a digital nomad, Dean? What was the catalyst to you think, screw all this, I'm off?
I never had the aspiration or even the idea or dream to become a digital nomad because this lifestyle did not exist when I grew up. I was born in '82, and for me, coming from Israel, the most lucrative job or career step up you could make is to have a relocation job, right? So you work for a tech company, they relocated to Europe or to the States for 4 or 5 years, you make a little bit of money, and then you go back to Israel. That was the Israeli dream, you would say. And then what happened, I found that relocation job. I moved to San Francisco, and very quickly, my visa, the process for the visa took a little bit longer than expected, and I couldn't stay anymore in the States. So they told me go work remote, and in 2-3 months time, when the visa is ready, come back to the States. And that's what I did. I started to work remote. I went to Japan and Taiwan and Spain and Portugal, and then the visa arrived and said, "Okay, come back." And I said, "Sorry, no way. I'm going back to the office life and the 9 to 5." I got hooked on this. I met amazing people. I started to see more people working with laptops in coffee shops, and I learned that there are co-working spaces. And I met people, and I started having this chat. It's like, oh yeah, this is how we live. This is how we do it. And I understood this is possible and it exists. And now we take a step back. My mom is a tour guide leader. So from a very early age, I saw my mom traveled around the world, came back with stories, with gifts, presents, and a lot of friends from around the world coming stay with us. My parents had an Airbnb before Airbnb was a thing. So always was very curious about who are these people, where they come from, what these stories, what these chocolates that they bring with them, the languages they speak. So I always had the desire to travel the world. I wanted to work for like an airline or hotel chain, send me around the world, let me be in a different place every day. And then I found out that it's possible without being tied to the profession with the travel. And that was like the perfect balance. And I proved that it works. When I told that I want to keep remote, they told me simple words: you earned it. You proved that your output is just as good. Involved in the company culture, people know you, they like you, you're a great person to work with. Like, why not? And I think this is what companies should allow now to people. Like, why not? Let's try it. Say yes and let it be. So this is how I stumble upon, and then just saying yes to different things. I never planned to become a speaker, and the company reached out to me. They saw my stories on Instagram. It's like, hey, do you want to give a talk about your lifestyle? It's like, yes, let's do it. And
of course, you said yes. Let's do it.
yeah, and you become a speaker, and then TV wants to interview you, and then you want to start a network, and yeah, it just grows. But this is how I became a digital nomad. I didn't know it exists. I didn't know what a digital nomad is.
Nice. Stumble into it then, as with most things. But speaking of your network, then, so this is a digital nomad social network. How is that going? What was have you built it? Are you designing it? Where are you at with that?
So I'll mention the first one, which is Digital Nomad Israel. As a result of my talk, a lot of people asked me more and more questions. They wanted to learn more. So I decided to start an online community on Facebook. And from 8 people 3 years ago, it's now 23,000 people. It's the 4th largest Facebook group for nomads in the world. Super active and engaged. I take a lot of pride. And now I'm trying to scale it. And I started the Digital Nomad World with 2 more co-founders here in Israel. And the idea is to have really a single social network and website with all the information and details that any digital nomad needs, right? From health insurance to relationships to information about cities, jobs, career, everything and anything you need, and to really give a good aspect of community. The real pandemic of our times is not COVID-19, is the loneliness. We're becoming more and more lonely, disconnected. We are connected through digital means, but we are not as social in real life as before. A lot of people deal with real loneliness, and I think community really bridges this gap. And this is why we see communities flourish on platforms like Facebook. And I'm just trying to create something bigger and more connected around this lifestyle in real life. So Digital Nomad World is an existing network, existing website. You can go check it out. Just Google Digital Nomad World. And we're starting to build it, and it will be a beautiful thing, and with the hope to connect all digital nomads, regardless of their hobbies and interests.
How long have you been building Digital Nomad World?
We started earlier this year. I think we kicked off the programming and everything in March.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we're now 5-6 months in, and it's live. It's still like an early beta. We don't push it too much, but it's live and it's happening, and we see more and more people join the network every day.
I would have expected that it had taken you a little bit longer to build this because there's so much information on it. I mean, the city guides alone are incredible, actually. I mean, there's a lot more information on there than you'd find in, you'd normally go to Lonely Planet for something like this, and actually there's a lot more information, a lot more relevant information on it. There
are other websites out there, some of them doing a better job, less of a good job, but what we decided to do the best, to have the best platform for digital nomads. So there's a great informative website out there, but the community is lacking. And then there are great communities, but then you won't find the right information. So I'm a big believer in collaboration rather than competition. So it's not just me and my 2 talented partners, but we hired people to get out the best content, to write good content about the city guides. It's not something that I put by myself, but we paid professionals. This is what they do to create the city guide. And we are now talking to thousands of partners around the world, the best co-working spaces, the best hostels and co-lives and so on, to vet out the best of anything, any service for digital nomads. And I think that would be the biggest promise. You go to Digital Nomad, you ask any question you have, and you get the right answer for you. I think this is what would be beautiful. And I bring my own experience, my co-founders' experience, and the people on the network. A lot of people reach out to me with questions, and then I tell them, don't ask me. I'm just one brain in the space. Go ask the community, get 100,000 of brains and all this knowledge and experience.
Yeah, I think I might have to start using this just for holidays, actually. It's great. I mean, knowing where the best neighborhoods are and the best bars and those sort of things is, cuisines and nightlife. And it's an amazing amount of information on here, because it's not just about the working side of things. I mean, I haven't even really gone through the job side of things in that much detail, but the cities is fascinating. You can just keep browsing through that. It's a great resource.
Yeah, you won't find any more information on the internet than what we have. It's very, very extensive, and it's going to get better. It's amazing. Thank you.
So surprised from looking at it, the amount of information that's there. It's fascinating.
Judging from Chris's question right from the beginning around how businesses can adopt this, is there anywhere on here, or is there any ambition to have a kind of, employers information, how they can adopt remote workers, these companies we've spoken about, Let's Deal, Papaya and Spatial, and Omnipresent. I'll plug it again. Sounds like there could be some room there to actually help employers now. So it's rather than appealing just to the digital nomads, but it's also the flip side of that. Is there any ambitions there at all?
Not with this platform. I know there are other networks that trying to talk to both sides of the spectrum, the employees and the employers. And I believe that the companies that we mentioned before might try to help companies also with the culture, and not just to set up an entity and employ people. There are amazing individuals out there that companies can hire to help and have this conversation with the company to set up the remote work. This is what I do part-time. I help companies to adopt remote work, and how you do it, and what's the right setup, and understand if it's right for the employees, and how you do it. You do it in one shot, or you do it gradually. What tools to adopt? There are many tools out there to help you to collaborate. And also, a person, like if I have the freedom to work remote, how do I do it? How do I find the flight? What do I do about travel insurance? How do I go about productivity and internet connection? So companies can give you also physical tools to make sure that you're always connected. You have the right setup, the right stand for the laptops, a good mouse, or the right keyboard, etc. And also have a community. You don't want to have an employee go somewhere and be lonely. It could be connect them with colleagues. I don't meet with my clients face to face for business, but if I'm in Brazil and I have a client there, I would love to grab a beer with them, even if it's like not business dinner, etc. So help them to go explore these places. Provide them with the tools. I need a backpack. Give them a backpack. That will go a long way. A lot of people want to work remote, because it's very sexy and it's out there and everybody's doing it. The company need to help them to do it right. Don't send them to Thailand the first time.
Can we talk about some of these tools a little bit? Because you mentioned Spatial, and I think having virtual working environments, I think, is a very intriguing thing. I think a number of organizations over the last few years have been, well, certainly the last 2 years, have been looking into these in more detail now that everyone's pretty much working remote. Have you had much success with these sort of tools? I mean, Spatial looks interesting, certainly.
I have no interest in any of the companies that I mentioned today. It's really just pure great services and tools. And Spatial is something that I got exposed to just a week or two ago in a conference for digital nomads. And it's basically a Zoom space. It's a live video chat space that looks like an actual venue. And what's beautiful about it, as you move your avatar, it gives you the same experience as you are in a venue. So you hear only the people that you are next to, right? You can maybe slightly hear someone in the background, and you can jump a conversation. It gives you this office or venue like experience. So I think that would be, I'm trying this now with my community and work. And I think set up, you can use any software out there, this focus hours that, me and you, Chris, we go live in front of each other, like we go in the office, just chit chat for 10 minutes. Like, how's your day? What did you do last evening? What movie you watch? And then what's your task for today? I need to do ABC in the next 2 hours. And then we turn off microphones. We keep on the cameras, and basically just a focus buddy, right? So, and there is a website called Focus Buddy that will connect you with a random person from around the world to to be your focus buddy. So you just sit down and you do your work. So this is one beautiful tool. And there are also, I can't remember now, there's a service that does it, help with companies to set up this space. And this is, I think, a good way to keep accountability and stay on top of it. Again, a lot of people need to be, I like to go to Cork or coffee shops because I like when I have people work around me. It motivates me to sit down and work. Other tools that I like, I'm a big fan of all the Slack and the MS Teams, and I'll allow the freedom to have groups for just random stuff and jokes and hobbies. Don't keep it just for, it's how you use these tools, right? So allow just fun conversation happening and in different channels, and also experiences. So especially now we work remote, you still want to feel connected. There are different services and they are locally in different countries, but what's the name of the states? It basically benefits for remote employees. So if my company is having an happy hour in the office, they will send me like a six pack, using one of the many food delivery services out there. So here I have my beer and I can join them. I feel part of the company. And it's amazing to be 6,000 miles away from the office and receive this small gesture. It's incredible. It makes you feel so much better and part of the company, part of the culture.
I'm curious about these avatar type things in more detail. I mean, do you think that do you think that's a direction we're going in? Are we all going to be playing in this 3D or playing and working in this 3D world? I mean, there's been 3D world things going on for, as long as the internet's existed. But they've always been games. Like, is this the future of work? Are we all going to be living in The Sims?
I don't see myself carry a VR set with me everywhere I go. And it's not a direction I would love to see, like head in this direction. But if this can give us a slightly better experience than the current video rooms that we have, it might be. Oh, and I think yesterday I met with 20 people from a community. We did like a co-work session today. And all of them told me, wow, it's the first time that I see your body. Like I'm used to see your, just from shoulders up. People see me as the avatar. And it might be, maybe it's nice to be able to walk in a room, even if it's just a virtual room, and get the sense of the people. A lot of people like to dress up. And we use fashion as a statement and just put ourselves out there. If you know Sam long enough, you probably know that. Sam used to have a really interesting collection of shirts. Are you still sporting them?
Just boring now. I'm just wearing boring shirts now.
Not used to it. So if we have this digital avatar and we can really put ourselves and who we are through the fashion and accessories and the space that we choose to meet, even if it's a virtual space, that might be interesting direction. There will be more and more effort to bridge the distance. But as I said, I hope we will stop at a certain point that it will not try to replace it, but just to add another layer to this virtual world. I don't want my company tell me, don't come to the office. Let's just go on VR chat room and that's it. Like, no. It changes the dynamic with my colleagues, with my friends, with my clients. I can work with them for 2 years and have like a good business relation. And then I have one dinner with them in person and the entire dynamic changes forever.
It would be interesting to see where this goes, though, because I'm sensing a trend there. Absolutely what you're saying is I think these tools are great for sort of productivity related things, actually getting work done, but they're not necessarily good for human connection. However, it would be worth just trialing it for 6 months and let's just live a virtual life and see where it goes, because you never know. I mean, I'm with you, Dean. Like my immediate reaction to something like this is like, how can we replace having a beer and chilling out together? It feels wrong. It feels, scary in some sort of ways. But I would be interested, say yes, Dean. Just say yes. Just try it for a bit. See if there is something we can capture. Because I'm rewatching this video now on Spatial about people getting work done and stuff like that. Because I think there is some space here to try and, because collaboration is slowly getting there. Like I Have you ever used Miro, Dean? I'm not sure if that's in the world that you
No.
work within, but something like Miro is a very collaborative whiteboard tool, basically. And Figma being a design tool, the fact that they're collaborative, yes, it's in a 2D space, but I think we're getting there. We're entering and growing into how collaboration can be done through the virtual world. But
yeah, I'm a big fan of both of those tools. I think if you had something like, I do quite like the idea of this spatial thing. I am going to explore it more. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to build my avatar properly because it mapped my map that is behind me on my wall into being part of my face. So I'll try that again a bit later. But maybe you just need a good clean background. But I think if there's a combination, like Slack is one of those tools that brings lots of other tools together into one sort of chat function. It's a grouping function. If there is a grouping level avatar, virtual space that's able to bring in things like Figma and Miro and maybe some other text tools like Slack, I think that would be really interesting. I think it's an interesting and scary future at the same time, potentially.
I will see. I believe we will see more effort to mimic the office space, like Mirror and Spatial and other software. Because one of the challenges now is that today, when you sit in an office and you need someone's help, you can just reach out to them and have a quick chat. Rather than now, you need to reach out on a chat and wait for them to reply. Are they there? Are they not? Are they in a meeting? You don't always know that. Think about a virtual space where you sit next to your colleague, so you know if your colleague is there, if he's available, if he's working, if he's typing, or he's just chilling on, leaning back. And yeah, you can just tap on their shoulder and say, "Hey, can I interrupt you? Can I ask you a question?" That's an important piece of what companies do. This is what innovation and how we create new things. And this is something that a lot of companies lost in the recent times because of COVID and the switch to remote work. I also call for companies who adopt remote work, and I tell them, don't let them spread across the world. If you have a team that wants to go work remote, ask them to go to the same place, pay for the office, rent a small office space in Barcelona, and let them work from Barcelona, right? Offer them to do this for them, so you still keep the innovation, the culture, and then the team connectivity, but you also allow them to work remote. This is also something that I think we'll see more and more happening. Companies basically offering virtual offices pretty much everywhere around the world and allowing groups and people to connect. There are some services they're already helping companies to do it.
With I can't. You might not have an opinion on this, so do let me know if this is not in your realm. But I do wonder that we're talking as somewhat extroverted people here, speaking about wanting to collaborate, wanting to get together. How do you see this remote working, these remote working options as a way for people to actually escape and lean into their introverted side? Because it seems like a prime opportunity if you just don't like people, which we can all get a bit dislikey of people every now and again. But are we forcing technology and collaboration on people who just want their own space? They'd rather just sit at home and play with their dog while they're at work, sort of thing. Do you have any thoughts around that, Dean?
Sam, I'm an Israeli. As an Israeli, I have an opinion about everything and anything. So, and I probably have two different opinions on this matter. It's interesting because this conversation about being an extrovert and introvert, yeah, you meet more extroverts when you travel, whether it's just travel or a digital nomad, but it's also you meet them because they're out there to meet you, right? And I met few introverts, and they just live I'm obviously an extrovert, and this is how I live my life and with everything I do. But it's actually an opportunity for them to live the way they want, because if you're an introvert and you're forced to come to the office and you must engage in these events and being remote allow you to keep this distance that you might want. But I can't speak to that because I don't know the feeling, and I don't have this side very much in myself. But I think the remote work and digital nomad lifestyle really allow you to be who you are and to express yourself in a much, much better way. Whose idea was it to begin with that we all need to go to the same office, or in the past even to dress the same way? There's the dress code and uniform in many, many jobs, and work 5 days a week. Whose idea? Who came up with this? Who thought that people, we used to think in averages. The average person who want to sit in an office on a desk with a computer, but we are not. None of us is really the average. Really think about, right? Like if you take heights of all people in the world, say, okay, the average height is 1 meter 70, but basically no one is 1 meter 70. Everyone spread across. So the digital nomad lifestyle and the remote work allow companies to much, much, much better give the right space and environment and tasks to the right people, whether you're an extrovert and introvert. And it's so I'm taking your question and I'm forcing a different idea that it really allows everybody, regardless of their personality type, to be in the right space. And as our jobs become more of like a task based, it allows you to better divide those tasks to the right people.
I guess as long as obviously efficiency is the only word that comes to mind as to why we speak in averages. Like even now, companies like myself are looking for ways to be efficient and to average out processes. So you're compensating for either ends of the spectrum. So if the company itself doesn't have these tools or systems in place to enable introverts and extroverts to work to the best of their ability, then it's a losing battle. But I can't help but feel like innovation happens when people are pushed out of their comfort zones, whether that's you need to your revenue needs to be 300k this year and it was 250 these ways of being pushed out of your comfort zone is where innovation happens. And I just worry that I find myself being super lazy sometimes, don't get me wrong. And if I'm not being pushed out of my comfort zone, on my introverted days, we all have them, that you just sink into this state of, I don't know, just not really like normality of not really like pushing things and whatever. Like I'm sure your best efforts are achieved because you're being pushed out of your comfort zone. So it's an interesting and difficult thing to balance.
I agree with this statement, by the way, what you said in the end. That like if you work remote and you don't have the discipline and you don't have the people around you, you might I don't want to say fall into, but you just do what you need to do. You might not push your boundaries, might not try to innovate or create something new. But a lot of innovation happens as a result now of people changing their lifestyle. We see it around COVID and other changes in our life. But then there is something to it. And this is why remote work is not for everyone. And individuals and companies need to be wary of this. It's definitely not everyone. And there is risk to companies of slowing down business. There's also opportunity to increase business, right? Like me traveling with my job, I promote the company everywhere I go. I'm the face of the company around the world. Talk to people, I put the word out. So there are advantages and there are disadvantages, but that's true to everything in life, I think. It's a very, very interesting point. And this is what companies deal with. Like, how do we measure? Also, how do you measure a change to your business, to the bottom line? And how do you tie it to the style of work? If it's because people work remote, is the person's performance dropped because he now moved to Portugal? Or is it just because the business environment is not right at this time? Not everything is easy to measure. But we mentioned number of tools and number of tech allow you to measure as many things as we can, but it's all at the end through conversation with people that we need to discover. There's so much more to do in this space, and we saw a leap in number of people work remote. That what people thought will take 10 years happened in a 3 months time. This is like, it's an unbelievable change. Not one that I was hoping this experiment will go in a different way. And we are in one of the largest experiments in human history of how we adopt fast to such change. No, you talk to me, I'm one person, and I definitely know companies that it didn't work for them, remote work, and ask people to come back. And we actually see some of the biggest companies in the world, Facebook and Apple and Google, that does not are not going to adopt remote work as a default. It's going to be a hybrid model, but it's not what they want to do, and I understand them. I think there are a lot of opportunities for small and medium sized companies, and both of productivity, getting better the right talent, and having this global outreach, and also the cost, of course, not having offices. If you raise $2, $3, $4 million, your burn rate in San Francisco probably good enough for a year. If you decide to open your offices in Thailand, you can expect double that.
Speaking of like businesses failing and stuff like that, it has been, I don't know, an interesting discussion to turn around and say remote working isn't working, whether that's from a company perspective or whether it's an individual perspective. Because I think a company can turn around and say, look, here are the numbers. Your productivity has gone massively down since you've worked remotely. We don't want, we can't have you working remotely anymore. That's going to be, that must be a conversation that needs to happen with someone somewhere, and a very difficult one, because we have to constantly reassess this remote working thing. Yes, it works for you, but it's not working for the company, and that's probably the biggest thing I learned from this conversation, is what you said right at the beginning, is that the responsibility falls on the individual more than it does on the company. I think if people are wanting to experience remote working, being a digital nomad, whatever you want to call it, you've got your work cut out for you to remain social, to remain active, to have your input be on par with what it would be if you were in the office. And that's something I hadn't thought about. So that's an interesting take. But it's something that needs to be reassessed as we move forward and more people become remote.
Yeah, I really call all companies to consider and allow remote work. Try it, give it a chance, say yes to it. If your employee asks for it, there is a reason why they want to try it, and they might actually excel and be better employees. But then I keep telling all people that I talk to, all individuals, it's on you to prove that this model works. And you need to work harder. You need to be available. You need to pick up the phone at late hours, because the time difference, and you need to make yourself available. And the line between what's work and what's just recreational time in life, it's, for me, doesn't exist anymore. I'm always available. But this is how I compensate, and this is how I thank my clients and my company for allowing me to live the life I want. And I'm living amazing life. I'm incredibly happy. 2020 was the best year of my life, and I'm always apologize for saying it, but 2020 was the best year of my life. I was in Bali. Yeah, it was amazing. Not just business wise, which was good, but the community I formed, the people I met. I was in Bali, which life was normal, like bars and restaurants and cafes and co-work. Like,
yeah, I remember you sending pictures. It's like they haven't got a clue. They're just carrying on.
yeah, but I never forgot for a moment that I have a job, and it's up to me to prove that this remote work model works. And people need to know, when you work remote, you work more, not less.
Yeah, well, I mean, burnout was going to be another one of my questions, but I think we're ready to wrap up here. But I think a lot of businesses' hands have been forced over the last year. They had to adopt a remote working strategy, whether they wanted to or not. Susie, for instance, her company, they were a bit against it, and there's a way to go in terms of figuring out now, as we said, the dust settles, how can we embrace it and make it better? Because a lot of people aren't doing it right, or they're not necessarily that social and cultural aspect is something that they really need to think about, not just getting the work done, but how you maintain that culture. But I think we're about ready to wrap up here, Dean, because I don't want to keep you any longer. But is there anything else you wanted to speak about?
I can speak for hours and days on any topic, regardless of remote work. But it's really been a pleasure being on the show, and it's great conversation. It's always interesting, and it would be great to meet again in 6 months or a year time, and see where we're heading with the virtual reality, with remote work, whether people went back to the office space or not. I'm mostly curious about the individuals really in the end. I think companies will flex and will allow it with time, and in different setups there will be essential workers that you need to have in the office every day, and there's no other way to do it. People who comes to the office 3 to 4 days a week, and then 1 day a month, and so on. So we will see different models. And as I said, remote work and digital nomad is not about traveling the world all day. It's really to have the freedom to be um, where you choose and where you want to start your day. But it will be really interesting to see where we're heading. I wish, I want to say, I wish I could look into the future, but in a way, I'm not. Like, I'm happy to see day by day how this workspace and remote work evolve. Super excited for anything that will come. Yeah, thank you for the time. It's great to see you again. Hopefully
Yeah.
in person sometime soon.
Yeah.
I'll be touring Europe. I wanted to say it earlier. I travel for people more than I travel for the places, and that's what keeps me moving. And I think that what will be also the future of travel. We will see to meet our colleagues and friends and family that we haven't seen for a long time, and we will hug them. No, some weird handshakes or something like that. I don't think we. I hope not that we will stay with this like elbow handshake or something weird like that. And we will go back to our normal life with the risk that associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And for everyone listening, say yes, please. As much, give yourself a week of yes and see what brings to your life, and then go explore. We have a beautiful world. Just turn off the news and enjoy the beauty of the world. There is so much out there.
Very cool. Thanks, Dean.